Hello, fellow book readers. My name is John, and today I'm going to go over my top 10 most disappointing books. So these aren't books that I necessarily gave 1 star to. These aren't even books that I necessarily hated. Some of them are, but not all of them. These are just the books that I had certain expectations going into that I don't feel lived up to those expectations. So they disappointed me. And unlike other top 10 lists I have done on this channel, this won't be in any order. So this isn't like, this is the book that disappointed me the most. This is the 10th most book that disappointed me the most. No, these are just 10 books. They all disappointed me. Let's just say equally. And as always, there will be spoilers when talking about these books. So keep that in mind. I will list all 10 books that I'm talking about down below in the description of the video. Okay, but let's start off with the first book that I was disappointed in. It's a heavy hitter. It's Wind and Truth by Brandon Sanderson, the 5th book in Arc 1 of the Stormlight Archive. I was disappointed in this book for many different reasons, but I still thought it was a good book. I still ended up giving it 3 stars. I do think it's a good book, but this is I think I have it 5th in my favorite series of all time. I expected so much more from this book. I love the first 4 books. This book I don't love, and there's a lot of reasons why. Let's just start off with the length. It's just way too long. And look, I like long books. They're fine. But this book did not need to be this long. With what happens in this book, there's absolutely no excuse for it to be this long. It felt like he wrote it this long just because he wanted to make it the longest book in the series. Definitely didn't need to be this long. And because of that, it's paced very, very, very poorly. Like, this book drags. It's even longer than it is. And it's already very long. And that's because he uses this 10-day cycle in this book. So you have to go through all 10 days, and all 10 days are detailed, and it all takes a very long time. But that's just one of many reasons. Another reason is the humor in this book. This book does not read like any other books, and it's intentional. Brandon has talked about this in interviews. He's talked about how he wants this book to read differently. So this book, he tried a different humor, and it just didn't land. Some of the stuff was kind of funny, but not all of it. Definitely not all of it. A lot of it was very cringe, and I felt awkward reading it. It just didn't feel like Brandon Sanderson's voice in a lot of different spots. Then there's also the character of Sazeth. I just never, ever attached to him. Even in the first 4 books, I didn't feel attached to him. And he makes up a big chunk of this book, and his parts just are not very interesting for me to read. They're just not. And then there's the resolutions to some of the characters. Like Dalinar's arc, I like parts of it, but I didn't love other parts of it, and the end felt very anticlimactic. And then Shallan kind of stuck in Shadesmare. It's like, why? Like, why is that a thing? Like, this is awful. And she's pregnant. Like, it's not confirmed, but, like, come on, she definitely is. There were parts I liked about this book, don't get me wrong. I thought the dance scene with Kaladin and Syl, that's like one of my favorite scenes in the series. I can hype that scene up over and over and over again. I love that scene so much. The Adolin and I forget the little emperor that he's stuck with for most of this book. Those scenes are awesome. They're so heartwarming, and the action in that scene is great, especially when the Herald awakes. So good. That part was written so good. Shallan and her mother, that scene was emotional and impactful and just very, very good. I think Jasna had a couple great scenes in this book. Really, her philosophy debate, that part was very good. It's not what I wanted, but it was very good still. But let's get to the main problem with this book. It was billed as the end of an arc, and it just doesn't feel like that. It feels like the end of a season. Nothing about this feels like the end of an arc. It feels like we're just continuing where we left off in book 6, which doesn't come out for 10 years. Like, it doesn't feel like this wrapped up the Odium plotline or some of the other plotlines at all, even in like a temporary way. It very much feels like the end of a season of a sitcom, like the end of like season 4 of Friends. That's what it feels like. It feels like we're just kind of left on a cliffhanger almost. Very much feels like the end of a season. I wish it was billed that way. This is the end of season 1 before season 2. The end of arc 1 makes it feel very different, in my opinion. It conjured up expectations that we're not able to deliver because this wasn't the end of an arc. Again, that's just my opinion. But yeah, this book disappointed me in a lot of different ways. I was expecting it to be a 5-star book, or at least a 4.5-star book, and I ended up getting a 3-star book, which is still good in my rating system. It's a good book, but just disappointed me. Okay, another book that disappointed me. The second book that disappointed me in this top 10 list would be Peter Pan by J.M. Barrie. Now, this is a book I had wanted to read for, I don't know, probably like 20 years. I remember, no, it's probably like 15 years. I remember sometime in like the early 2010s, I had read online that the Peter Pan book, Peter and Wendy, I think it's actually called, is very dark. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. And I had been wanting to read it since then. I just hadn't, picked it up ever. And on a whim, I picked it up one day last year. And I read it all in 2 days because it's very short. And it's just not dark really at all. Like, there's nothing dark about this. There's that one line where Peter thins out the Lost Boys, but we don't even really know what that means. It could mean a lot of different things. But yeah, other than that, this book's just not very dark at all. So whoever told me that just lied. So I had different expectations going into it, and I was very disappointed. But that's not the only thing I was disappointed. Just Peter himself. He's just not a fun character. He's very, very annoying. Very mean, but not in like a charming way. Just like mean. He's also like the world building here just doesn't seem very good in my opinion. Neverland itself, I just didn't want to ever be there. It just didn't sound fun. Now, again, I am not the target audience. I'm old, so this is not targeted towards me. But I am somebody who really likes children's and middle grade books, especially children's and middle grade fantasy. And I don't think this is like one of them that still holds up today. The writing seemed a little bit archaic. I don't think it aged very gracefully. I think Wendy herself with the whole mom theme was weird and kind of forced, and I didn't like that at all. There's very little about this book that I actually liked. And that's coming from somebody who actually likes most Peter Pan media. Like, I like the Disney movie. I love Hook. I love some of the stage plays I've seen. But this itself just didn't hold up. And even Hook isn't like as good a villain as you want him to be. Hook's one of the most iconic villains of all time. And this just isn't. I gave this 1 star. I just didn't like this book. I actively hated my time reading it. I will say it is paced well, though. Okay, next up. Book number 3 in my top 10 most disappointing books is Dune Messiah by Frank Herbert. Why am I disappointed in this book? A lot of different reasons. Look, I understand you're trying to subvert the theming here. Like, yeah, Paul Atreides was the hero of book 1, but not really. Like, what he did made him kind of evil. I understand what he was going for. I just don't think it worked. Like, I didn't actively like it. And I would have appreciated it if it was executed, I think, better. I just don't think it was executed very well. And this book was missing some characters I wanted. Like, it just didn't have the Lady Jessica, who I think is the best character in the Dune series. She just wasn't in this book. Very disappointed in that. And after the high of Dune, the first Dune book, this book was just not as good, not as satisfying. I didn't love that it repeated some of the storylines from Dune 1 in, like, just not as good a way. Like, the talking sort of children aspect of it. It's just like, what are we doing here? And this book felt very, 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 very science fiction-y. And it is a science fiction book. But the first Dune book, despite being billed as a science fiction book, isn't really a science fiction book. It's a science fantasy book. It is definitely a fantasy more so than a science fiction book. And this book almost has no elements of it that resemble fantasy at all. It's basically just a science fiction. There's parts of it where he's mentioning like stuff that's happening on Earth that I just wasn't interested in at all. And that goes on for a while. And then you got like the nuclear bombs and people coming back to life and all sorts of wild stuff. And it's just like, oh God. And I'm not interested in this. And the space exploration is more apparent in this book than it is in the first book. It's just, this book wasn't what I expected it to be, despite it having a beautiful cover. And this book is short, but it's not paced well. Really at all, in my opinion. Yeah, I was very disappointed in this book. I didn't hate it. There were parts of this book I really liked, especially parts that had Paul in it. I still think Paul's a very good character in here. I just didn't love what they did with him in this book, the way they did it. Because what they did with him was very smart. Because that was set up in book 1 very, very well. Especially the end of book 1. You could tell, well, yeah, he won, but what did it cost him? Here, I don't think it played on that as well as the author intended. I know what Frank Herbert was going for. Just didn't work for me for some reason. So this book was disappointing to me. I give it 2 stars. I just think it's okay. Okay, then the 4th book in my top 10 most disappointing books is a book I actually don't own the physical copy of, but it is The Last Battle by C.S. Lewis. It is the final book of the Chronicle of Narnia series. I think it's the worst Chronicle of Narnia book, And it's the one I see online hyped up the most after The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. I think everybody kind of agrees that the first book is the best, but most people think the last book is like the second best. At least that's what I saw online. So I was really looking forward to it. And yeah, it just didn't deliver basically on anything. The main characters, that Jill, and I don't remember the other kid's name, just not interesting. I don't like them. Jill's basically just a carbon copy of Lucy, but not as like complex, I would say. And the main character is just like blah. He's just a total blah. The plot is so not interesting and fun. It's not fun at all, really. The action scenes in it are not good. The book, look, every book in the series is an allegory for some part of the Christian Bible. But the last book, it barely even feels like an allegory. It just feels like it is like it's just the Christian Bible, basically. It's just like, here's the apocalypse. This is it right here. It didn't feel like it was trying to hide the story in sort of a clever way, or even just like get the theming of the story with different like plot work. No, it was just like, we're just gonna carbon copy this, basically. And then at the end, I didn't love that Aslan was like, yeah, I'm Jesus. It was just like, okay, cool, I guess. Like, why? Like, why couldn't you just still be Aslan? Like, I get what he was going for, and I think he did a good job of that in Voyage of the Dawn Treader, where he's like, well, I have a different face in your world, he tells Lucy. I thought that was really clever and really well done. Here, it wasn't really well done, where he just stands like, nope, I'm Jesus, basically. He doesn't say his name, but he says it, and it's just like, okay then, I guess. It just didn't feel like a fantasy book as much as it was just like sort of preaching to me, and I didn't think that the plot of the book was good enough to overcome that like very obviousness of it. Like, it felt like lazy writing to me, that he didn't make it as like clever as some of the other books. And again, I just didn't think the action in this book was very good. So, and for a book that's titled The Last Battle, you expected to have some solid action, and it just doesn't. Okay, then the fifth book in my top 10 most disappointing books would be a book I read last year that I was really looking forward to, Good Omens by Terry Pratchett and Neil Gaiman. Yeah, I see this book online. It gets a lot of love, and I was really looking forward to it. I read the blurb, and I was like, yes, dude. Angel and demon coming together to, like, save the world? That sounds awesome. And then the book just really isn't that at all. Like, that basically doesn't exist. Like, the angel and the demon are in the book a lot in the beginning, but then they're basically not in the book at all in the middle. Like, they just don't exist in the middle of the book. We have so many other point of view characters, and none of the other point of view characters are good or interesting. The witch, she's okay towards the end, but the whole middle of the book, she's boring. The witch hunter, never liked him. He's awful. The children who are like sort of the main point of view characters of the story, not the angel and the demon, despite what the blurb tells you. Children just aren't interesting. I don't care about this child at all. Really at all. Just basically didn't care about him at all. And then it's a Neil Gaiman and Terry Pratchett book, so you expect humor, good humor. I don't think the humor on this book really delivers. It probably delivers for some people, but for me, it just never landed. There's just so much rattling about the Tibetans and Atlantis and a hole in the earth and all sorts of the four horsemen of the apocalypse. And it's just like, okay, cool, I guess. It wasn't funny. It was funny the first time, but like, do we have to keep talking about Atlantis and the Tibetans over and over and over and over again? It's just like they keep playing the same joke on you. Like, what about those Tibetans? What about Atlantis? Oh, did you hear about the Tibetans though? Just like, no, can we stop? What this isn't funny. Like, what are we doing? Please. And that takes up a lot of the book, and it's just sort of blah. And again, the children's storyline, which is sort of the main storyline of this book, takes up the majority of the book, I would say. It's not very interesting. Like, it's just not. I didn't connect with those characters at all. I didn't really care about those characters at all. Didn't really like those characters at all. So yeah, that's this book. The blurb promises something that it just doesn't deliver on. This book just doesn't have as much of the angel and the demon as it should, because those two characters are actually very good, but they're just not in the book as much as I want it to be. So, I gave this book 1 star. I actively hated my time reading this. This book took me over a week to finish, and it's not that long. I just don't think it was paced very good. Okay, the 6th book in the top 10 most disappointing books that I've read is The Sword and the Stone by T.H. White. It is the first book in the Once and Future King series. You can buy it as a bundle. Most people buy it as a bundle, I would say. Yeah, this book just didn't work for me. And I am somebody who went into this book with high expectations. I love King Arthur. I love so many different King Arthur stories and books. I love the legend itself, just in general, like the old legend. You can go back and like read it or just hear about it. So interesting, so cool. I love a lot of the King Arthur characters. I mean, Guinevere is one of my favorite characters just ever, period. Such a good character. Lancelot's awesome. Merlin is, the original mentor character. There's just so many good characters in the King Arthur, just universe, series. And then you got the Sword in the Stone. And if you watch a Disney movie, you're like, okay, this could be fun. At least it's going to be fun. And this is the book that sort of inspired modern day King Arthur books. But the Sword in the Stone just isn't very good. Like, I didn't enjoy my time there at all. There was so much repetitive action in that book. It was like, Merlin turns King Arthur into a bird. King Arthur learns a lesson. 30 pages later, Merlin turns King Arthur into a rat. Merlin learns a lesson. 30 pages later, Merlin turns King Arthur into, like, a fish. Arthur learns a lesson. It's just like, this happens over and over and over again. It's just repetition. And then in the end, he pulls the stone out of the slab. And it's just like, okay, cool. And it goes on for way, way, way too long. This book is way too long. King Arthur himself is just a nothing of a character. He's a wimp, just a total wimp. Nobody wants King Arthur to be a wimp, but he's a wimp in this book. In the first book in this series, anyway. And total wimp. Merlin's cool, but all the other characters are lame and not fun. Like, I don't know what else to say other than, the prose in this book has aged pretty horribly as well. This book is paced really bad, and a lot of that's because of the repetitiveness and the prose. I just did not like my time here at all. I gave it 1 star. I love the King Arthur stories. Don't stop reading King Arthur, but if you haven't read The Sword in the Stone, I'm not going to be the one recommending it to you. Okay, and then the 7th book in this series is actually another book that I read on my Kindle, so I don't own the physical copy of. This book is the first book in the Realm of the Elderlings. It's the first book in the Farseer trilogy. It's The Assassin's Apprentice by Robin Hobb. You hear about the Farseer trilogy and the Realm of the Elderlings all over BookTube. People love this series, especially in the fantasy sphere. And I can see totally why anybody would love this series. But you have to have patience. I was expecting this book to be like amazing, great, perfection. I was expecting the next like epic fantasy of my time. It's not that. It just isn't. Like, the book is very, 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 very slow. Like, it just is. This book takes forever to get going. And that's how Robin Hobb writes. The pacing in her books are just not good. They're not for me, I should say. I don't know if they're good or not, but they're definitely not for me. I don't think she paces very well at all. And then for some people, I hear people talk about her character work all the time. And perhaps her character work is great. It certainly gets better in the next 2 books in the series. But in this book, Fitz is just not an interesting character. Like, he's whiny. Like, very, 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 very whiny. And it gets on my nerves because the entire book is in his point of view. So you're just constantly in his point of view. And then some of the other characters, I just didn't care about his, like, foster father really at all. I forget his name. It's like Birch or Burke. Honestly, I can't remember his name. That's how much I don't care about him. Regal is the most Saturday morning cartoon villain of all time. You know immediately that this guy is the antagonist. It's just like, okay, well, this isn't hidden at all. And that's not a problem. I don't mind that. Like, you can have very obvious villains. That's not a problem. But he's in the book, like, way too often. And it kind of gets on my nerves because it's like nobody else seems to notice it or care. It's just like, okay, then, I guess. This book has a fabulous climax. I love the climax of this book. It just took forever to get there. Some of the stuff that happens along the way is interesting. Like the Patience stuff. I love Patience as a character. I think Patience is an amazing character. She's not in. I wish she was in this book more. She just isn't. And then Verity. I think Verity's a very good character. Wish he was in this book more. He's just not. And then we get the magic lesson. It's like, oh, yes, finally, we're going to learn about the magic of this book. And then you just don't. Like, we don't. Like, the magic lesson goes on forever. Like, that whole, like, arc of this book goes on forever. And by the end, you have basically learned nothing about the magic, despite the chapters taking place in the magic lessons multiple times. Like, I didn't know what the hell the wit was by the end of this book. I had no idea. And we spent a whole, like, arc learning about it. And, like, we learned nothing about it at all. Like, instead we were focusing on, like, character work. And like I said, I just didn't enjoy Fitz, so I didn't care about this character work at all. I wanted to learn about the magic, and the magic just doesn't happen. Like, we don't learn about it. You learn, like, the bare essentials of the magic in this book. It's like, why? And you do learn about the magic more in the next 2 books in the series, and that's probably what she was going for, but I just hated that we had a whole section about learning about magic, and we basically didn't learn about the magic. It was very annoying. Like I said, this book is not paced well, in my opinion. Okay, then the 8th book that disappointed me the most in my top 10 list is Eye of the World by Robert Jordan. I love Wheel Time. Wheel Time is my 4th favorite series of all time. It's amazing. Such a great series. I would call it the epic fantasy series of the 90s and the 2000s. Like, this series is that. It's epic fantasy. It's just as much epic fantasy as you can pack in one book. Fortunately, Eye of the World, which I was really, really looking forward to reading, just didn't do anything for me. This book is so long and it drags. It is such a pace killer. I don't think the characters in this book are interesting. Luckily, they all grow into great characters in the following books. But in this book, you're in Rand's point of view a lot with Matt. And they're not good characters at all in this book. Rand is so whiny. He will never, ever, 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 ever stop complaining. And then you got Matt, who is just, not only is he whiny, but he's like mean whiny, and he always makes the worst possible choice. He is like Pippin from the Lord of the Rings movies. Not Pippin from the Lord of the Rings books, from the movies, who always makes the worst possible choice and always blabs every possible secret. That is Matt in this book, and that is really the only characterization he is given, and he is in this book so much. And I'm not exaggerating, so much. And then there's the plotting of this book. This book basically doesn't have a plot. Look, you go like 80% of this way through this book before they're like, oh yeah, we should probably go to the Eye of the World. And it's like, okay, why didn't that come up earlier? And then you get to the Eye of the World, and they don't even bother explaining what the Eye of the World is. And you never really learn what the Eye of the World is, other than it's like a well of power. But why is it important? Who the hell knows? It's never really explained. This book is basically just characters going from town to 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 town until they get to the end. It's sort of like Fellowship of the Ring like that, but done worse, in my opinion. I don't have a ton of positives to say about this book, other than I love Moiraine, love the Gwaine in this book, and I think this book has some fabulous, and I do mean fabulous, some really, really, really fabulous world building. If you love world building, you're probably going to love a good chunk of this book, because it's just filled with world building. This book should basically be called World Building. That should be the title of this book. It is basically a ton of world building, and it all pays off in later books, for the most part. It's actually the Eye of the World, which doesn't pay off. But all the rest of the world building pays off. And yeah, I think on rereads, this book reads a lot better, but initially this book is really a struggle, at least for me, to get through. So I think I ended up giving this book 2.5 stars. It's okay, because again, the world building is really fabulous, and I love Moiraine and Egwene in this book. But there's a lot of this book, character-wise and plot-wise, that I think failed to deliver on the expectations you might have going into the series. And I think it is a detriment to the Wheel Time in general, and why it's not like a bigger series than it is. Don't get me wrong, it's a very big series in the fantasy sphere, but in terms of casually, I don't think many people know about the Wheel Time or care about the Wheel Time. I think a lot of that has to do with, A, this book is gigantic, and then B, it's just hard to get into. Okay, then the 9th book in my top 10 most disappointing books of all time would be The Magicians by Lev Grossman. I went into this book with a lot of different expectations. I was looking forward to learning about magic. I love academia books. I was like, oh yeah, another magic academia book, except this one's adult? Yeah, sign me up. And it's also a portal fantasy? Yeah. Also, sign me up. And guess what? It doesn't deliver. It just doesn't. Like, you spent like 70% of this book in the magic school, or maybe like 65% in the magic school, and you learn nothing. And I do mean nothing. Nothing about the magic. Zero. Zip. Zada. Nothing. I don't know the magic of this series at all. Like, zip. People move their hands. That's what I know. And they can do magic. How does the magic work? Who the hell knows? What magic can they do? Who knows? I don't know. I certainly don't know. I know nothing. The teachers basically don't even teach them. Like, they don't teach it. This book is teen drama. That's what it is. It's teen drama, teen angst, or like I would say young adult, not young adult, like adult like 18 to 22, whatever you want to call that, year old, like drama and angst. And that's what this book is. It's focusing on that. It's like the college life, basically. But that's not what I wanted. I wanted to learn about the magic, and that just doesn't happen in this book. And hey, I would appreciate some, drama and angst if the characters were actually interesting, but they're not. They're just not. Like, Quentin is a terrible character, and you're in his point of view the entire book. He is awful. Like, he is not fun to read at all. Trust me, you will not enjoy reading him. I don't know anybody that enjoys reading Quentin. I mean, I haven't seen anybody say, oh yeah, he's a great character. He's just not. He's very, very, very annoying. Oh, God. And then you get to the portal fantasy part. And is the portal fantasy part the best part of the book? Yes. Is it good? Not really. I mean, it's fine. It's okay. But it's nothing special. It's like, yeah, we're throwing references to Chronicles of Narnia and Alice in Wonderland and the Phantom Tollbooth. And trust me, he's laying on the references. Very obvious. And that's intentional. I don't mind that. But they're all there, all the references. You're going to really enjoy that part of the book. But that's it, really. The stuff in the land just seems blah. Like, this land isn't what I want it. Like, it's not fun. And then the battle at the end, it's just like, okay, I didn't learn anything about the magic, so I'm not invested in this battle with the magic about characters I don't care about. I don't care about these characters at all. At least if the magic was, interesting, maybe I would care. But nope, the magic isn't interesting. So they're in a battle and they're doing spells. And it's like, well, I don't know anything about these spells because you didn't teach them to us. You didn't tell the reader what they were. Why would I care about these? Yeah, I don't know what's good about this book really at all other than the blurb. The blurb is very good. And the opening line. This is one of the best opening lines of all time. But that's it, really. I gave this book 1 star. I actively hated my time reading this book. This book took me forever to finish, despite it really not being that long. It's not that short either, but it's not overly long. Okay, and then the 10th book that I was most disappointed in my top 10 most disappointing books was The Burning God by R.F. Kuang, the 3rd book in the Poppy War trilogy. I loved the first 2 books of the Poppy War trilogy. I gave the 2nd book, The Dragon Republic, 4.5 stars. It's one of my favorite books of the year. The Poppy War, it's a mixed bag. I don't think it's as balanced as The Dragon Republic. I think I gave it 3.5 stars. It's very good. I love the academia part of the Poppy War. The academia part was awesome. The war part, not as awesome, but it was still good. And then you get this book. And this book's just very, very weird. Like, that's the best way I can describe it. It's weird. Just straight up strange. Some of the choices the author makes in this I didn't love. Like, I just didn't. I thought we were going to get more of the triumvirate in this. And then we don't. They all come together and you're like, oh, yes, finally. I've been waiting 3 books for this. The series has been building to this. And then they come together and they're gone in like 50 pages. Like, it's like, nah, sorry. We came together, but we died pretty much immediately. And it's like, what? Why? Why that's not what I wanted. And then you get sort of this, the book ends with like our main 2 like good characters, like not, I think they both die, or so one of them die. I can't remember exactly, but I know our main character dies. And it's like, okay, I don't mind that. That's fine. But the book wants you to feel sympathy for this sort of gray, mean character at the end. And it's like, oh, well, everything's okay. We got him. It's like, no, this character is awful. He's the reason that a lot of these characters are even in this mess to begin with. Like, it's like they're presenting him almost as a good character at the end. And it's like, no, just absolutely not. Like, what are we thinking? I have no idea what she was thinking when she wrote this book. Like, this book just didn't work for me. It had some really great theming. Some parts did deliver. I loved them. The triumvirate met up back up again. And also, there's a dragon fight in here that's just basically a cop-out. Like, it was so lame. Like, it should have been so much better than it was, and it just didn't happen. Very disappointing. And the gods, just blah. Like, it just did. Oh, I had a lot of problems with this book. I didn't hate it. Like I said, there were parts I definitely enjoyed. I ended up giving it 2 stars. It is definitely my least favorite of the Poppy War. And it did disappoint me because I was expecting, after the Dragon Republic, to have something at least close to as good as that. This book wasn't it. So yeah, that is my top 10 most disappointing books that I've read. Again, these aren't all 1-star books. There are a couple that I gave 3 stars. There's a few that I gave 2 stars. There are some 1-star books in there, but not all of them. That's not what disappointed in a book means. It just means they came in under your expectations. So let me know down below, what are the books that has most disappointed you ever, that you've ever read? And if you've read any of these, let me know what you think. You can disagree with me. That's totally fine. I have no problem with that. That's what reading's about. Reading's an art. It's very subjective. And we all enjoy different things. Sometimes books land for other people that don't land for you. That's just the way it is. And that's what I love about reading, because sometimes you'll find hidden gems, and sometimes you'll find books that just don't click with you. But sometimes you're able to get stuff out of those books even if they don't click with you. Anyway, those are my top 10 most disappointing. I am going to make a list where I go over all my 5-star reads, I think, at the end of the year. I think that'll be interesting too.